Have you ever heard a story so unbelievable that it forces you to question everything you thought you knew about success, privilege, and wisdom? Well, listen carefully, because this one will make you stop, think, and maybe even shed a tear. It begins with a boy who seemed to have everything, yet somehow had nothing at all. His father was one of the wealthiest billionaires in the city, the kind of man whose name was printed across skyscrapers, whose fortune was so vast that his family never had to worry about money for 1,000 lifetimes. But money, as they would soon discover, cannot buy determination, cannot purchase respect, and cannot magically give wisdom to someone who does not yet understand the meaning of life. The billionaire's son, a boy named Ethan, was failing in school, failing in life, failing in the shadow of a father who was too busy building empires to notice his son was crumbling. Teachers tried everything. Private tutors came and went. His grades didn't just dip, they collapsed. His father's money could buy grades on paper, but deep down, Ethan knew he wasn't learning, and it made him feel hollow inside. Everyone whispered behind closed doors, "How could a billionaire's son be so incapable?" Some called him lazy, some called him spoiled, but no one understood the battles Ethan fought in silence. And then, on a night when Ethan was drowning in self-doubt, when another exam had been handed back with a big red F written across it, a man that no one expected to matter would step into his story, a man that most people didn't even see when they walked past him every day. The black janitor at Ethan's school, a man named Mr. Carter, had been cleaning those halls for decades. Students ignored him, parents overlooked him, teachers spoke down to him, and some even assumed he was uneducated simply because of his job, his skin, his worn uniform. But they had no idea who he truly was, no idea about the battles he had fought, the books he had read, the lessons life had carved into his soul. He was invisible to most, but not to Ethan, not anymore. Because that night, Mr. Carter noticed the boy sitting in the empty classroom long after everyone had gone home. Ethan's head was buried in his hands, his eyes swollen from holding back tears he refused to let anyone else see. And instead of ignoring him, instead of just sweeping the floor and leaving, Mr. Carter quietly placed his broom aside, sat down across from the boy, and asked a question that would change Ethan's life forever. "Why do you keep letting failure define you, son?" Ethan looked up, startled. No teacher had ever spoken to him like that. His father never had time to ask. His so-called friends just laughed at his mistakes. But here was the janitor, someone everyone else ignored, asking him a question so piercing that he couldn't find words to answer. I just can't do it," Ethan muttered. "No matter how much I study, I fail. Maybe I'm just not meant to succeed." Mr. Carter leaned back in his chair and smiled. Not a mocking smile, but the kind of smile that comes from someone who seen darkness and still believes in light. "That's your problem," he said. "You think success is about being perfect. But let me tell you a secret, the kind no billionaire can buy and no textbook will teach you. Success is about falling in love with failing. It's about learning to lose with grace so you can rise with strength." Ethan frowned, confused. How could failure be the key? All his life, failure had been shame, humiliation, disappointment. And yet Mr. Carter spoke of it as if it were a gift. That night, Mr. Carter told Ethan stories about growing up in a world where people doubted him because of his skin, where he was told no 1,000 times before he ever heard a single yes. He told him about working 3 jobs while studying by candlelight, about doors slammed in his face, about people who mocked him, underestimated him, and tried to break him. "Every time I failed," Mr. Carter said, "I didn't see it as the end. I saw it as a beginning. I asked myself, what is this teaching me? Where can I get stronger? What can I learn?" And eventually, failure became my best teacher. You can let failure crush you, or you can let it shape you. That's the secret. Ethan sat in silence, his heart pounding, because no one had ever spoken to him like that before. No one had ever framed failure as something to embrace. For the first time, he felt hope. Over the next weeks, Ethan began to meet Mr. Carter secretly after school. They talked while Mr. Carter mopped floors, wiped windows, or polished the hallways. Ethan brought his books, his tests, his assignments, and instead of drilling him with answers, Mr. Carter taught him how to think. "Don't memorize," he would say. "Understand. Don't chase grades, chase growth, and every time you stumble, don't hide from it. Write it down, study your mistakes, turn failure into fuel." Slowly, something began to change. Ethan started to see patterns in his mistakes. He began asking questions instead of shutting down. He stopped fearing red marks on his papers and started looking forward to them, because each one was a clue, a lesson, a stepping stone. And all the while, his father had no idea what was happening. The billionaire was busy closing deals, shaking hands with politicians, hosting galas with champagne and diamonds, while his son's greatest transformation was happening under the guidance of the school's black janitor, the very man the billionaire barely noticed when walking past him. But soon, the change became impossible to ignore. Ethan's grades began to rise, not dramatically at first, just small steps. From an F to a D, from a D to a C. Each time, Ethan would run to Mr. Carter with his paper, and together they would dissect every mistake, every detail, until the lessons became etched in Ethan's mind. By the end of the semester, Ethan did the impossible. He passed every class. For the first time in his life, he wasn't failing anymore. His teachers were shocked, his classmates were stunned, and his father was confused. One evening, when Ethan proudly brought home his report card with all passing grades, his father narrowed his eyes and asked, "Which tutor did this? Who did I pay?" And Ethan, with a quiet smile, simply said, "No tutor, just someone who believed in me." The billionaire didn't understand, at least not yet, but he would, because one day his empire faced a challenge, a legal battle, a business crisis that threatened everything he had built. The billionaire's board members panicked, his advisors offered expensive solutions, but none of it worked. And in that moment, when everyone else was losing hope, Ethan spoke up. He remembered Mr. Carter's lessons. Break down the problem, study the mistakes, don't fear failure, learn from it. Ethan proposed a bold idea, one that no one else had considered. At first, his father dismissed him. What could his once failing son possibly know about billion-dollar decisions? But desperation forced him to listen. And to everyone's shock, Ethan's plan worked. It saved the company. His father, humbled, finally asked, "Son, where did you learn to think like this?" And Ethan, with tears in his eyes, said, "From the man you never saw. The janitor you passed every morning without a word. Mr. Carter taught me everything." Silence filled the room. For the first time, the billionaire realized the truth. Wisdom, resilience, and greatness do not always wear suits or sit in boardrooms. Sometimes they wear worn uniforms and carry brooms. Sometimes they are found in the very people society underestimates the most. And so, the billionaire personally sought out Mr. Carter, and for the first time in his life, shook the janitor's hand with genuine respect. "Thank you," he whispered. "You taught my son what all the money in the world could not." And Mr. Carter simply smiled, replying, "I didn't teach him to succeed. I taught him not to fear failing. The rest he did on his own." Now, dear listener, I ask you, how often do we overlook the people around us, assuming they have nothing to teach us? How often do we judge someone by their job, their clothes, their skin, instead of recognizing the wisdom they carry? This story is not just about Ethan. It is about all of us. It's about how real wealth is not measured in money, but in lessons, in resilience, in character. So the next time you see someone society tries to make invisible, remember, They might just hold the secret that could change your life.